Okay, everyone, I have a big show for you today because we're going to get an update on what was happening with the John Durham letter. Basically, where is that report? We have Senator Marsha Blackburn on today. She's going to let us know. And we also are going to talk to her about the latest on big tech with Jack Dorsey now leaving Twitter. We've got someone 1,000 times worse. You couldn't even imagine this, right? Well, we're going to talk to Senator Blackburn about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about Chris Cuomo and his permanent suspension from CNN. Such a joke. CNN's just trying to save their ass. You got to listen to this. And we're going to be talking about what the FBI is doing with regards to parents. And by the way, I think Merrick Garland, I know some people say, well, he didn't write the letter. It was the school board that wrote the letter. We're going to talk to Senator Blackburn about that as far as naming parents as domestic terrorists. But I think Merrick Garland, when he pushed that letter out to the FBI, all to their national offices, he backed it. You know, he can't just walk away from this. He should actually resign. That's my opinion. And guess what? Did or did not President Trump reach out to Senator Blackburn to ask if she might consider being his running mate in 2024? That and so much more here on the Sara Carter Show. Please follow and subscribe. Get all the links at saraacarter.com. You want to go to saraacarter.com. We have a brand new, amazing website. And while you are there, sign up for our email list so that you do not get shadow banned. And you all know what that means. Guys, now is a critical time to be vigilant in the defense of our freedom. And there is no better way than doing so than by joining the Association of Mature American Citizens. That's AMAC. AMAC believes in fighting the good fight against reckless government spending. Look at what's going on with the Biden administration. It's a joke. They believe in helping small businesses like my own, securing our borders, supporting our military, and respecting our veterans, standing for the flag and kneeling before God. By joining AMAC, you're taking the first steps to saving the America you love. It's up to all of us. That means we have to not only do our part at home, we have to do our part by joining organizations that actually believe the same way we do. AMAC offers an alternative to just about every benefit that other group offers, but without the liberal agenda. Look, I stand with AMAC, and I hope that you will too. I encourage you to join today at amac.us/Carter. That's amac.us/Carter. The benefits of membership are great, but the cause is even greater. Join today at amac.us/Carter. Folks, Dr. Anthony Fauci is one of the biggest hypocrites and liars in the United States of America, and frankly, he doesn't even care. He says things and just keeps doing it. It's so bizarro. I mean, it's so bizarre. This guy that headed the National Institutes of Health, he worked under President Trump with the COVID virus. He works now under Biden. It's like he is immune to criticism. I don't even know why the mainstream media news outlets are not digging into this guy left and right. I want you to listen to this. Peter Doocy, who I adore, he's with Fox News and is one of the few reporters at the White House that actually, he just asks straight up questions. He doesn't even care. Peter's not going to play one side or the other. And he's the first reporter that I know of at the White House that actually is holding Fauci accountable. Fauci is insisting that everyone that comes into the U.S. get tested for COVID and this new variant. But just listen as Peter Doocy reveals Fauci doesn't really mean everybody. Listen to this.
Dr. Fauci, as you advised the president about the possibility of new testing requirements for people coming into this country, does that include everybody?
The answer is yes, because you know that the new regulation, if you want to call it that, is that anybody and everybody who's coming into the country needs to get a test within 24 hours of getting on the plane to come here.
Well, what about people who don't take a plane and just these border crossers coming in huge numbers?
But that's a different issue. For example, when you're talking, we still have Title 42 with regard to protection at the border. So there are protections at the border that you don't have the capability, as you know, of somebody getting on a plane, getting checked, looking at a passport. We don't have that there, but we can get some degree of mitigation.
What the hell is that guy talking about? What does Dr. Fauci think? We are like idiots? Can I say, does he think we fell off the turnip truck, or am I going to get in trouble for that? PC'd, I'm going to get canceled. Because Fauci obviously believes that we are complete morons. You guys, I'm at the border. I've been at the border almost every week since the beginning of this year. And what I have seen is tragedy all the way around, not just the humanitarian crisis, as well as the national security crisis, but I can totally, with absolute 100% certainty, tell you that the people coming across that border are not being tested at all unless they show some kind of symptom, and then maybe they're tested. They are being put on buses and being put on planes, just as Fauci tried to explain about this new Omicron and everybody needs to be tested to be put on planes. It's a lie. I have literally seen people get bussed all over the country. I have literally been on airplanes with people carrying their manila envelopes saying, I do not speak English. Please help direct me to wherever I need to go because I'm an illegal immigrant and I'm going to get help somehow. And, either Catholic Charities or somebody else is paying for their airfare, or the United States government in many cases, especially if they're underage children. And people are being transported all across this country from all over the world. I know we say it's the U.S.-Mexico border. We've got roughly, 1,900 miles, almost 2,000 miles of border with Mexico to the United States, our southern border. But these people are not all from Mexico. So for all of you listening out there, these are people from all over the world, people from Haiti, people from Africa, people from Central America, people from South America, people from Mexico, yes, people from everywhere, Romania, China. I could go on and on and on. More than 72 nations have entered that border and they are not being tested. For those of you that are listening to this that support President Biden and his administration, you have to take, and I don't think there are many of you actually listening to me that actually support President Biden, but if you are, thank you. Ask them this question. Ask them, what's the difference? Why aren't they testing the people that are coming through the border? And Fauci talks about Title 42. That was being enforced by President Trump. I can guarantee you that that is not being enforced by President Biden, even though now he's in a panic. The administration is in utter shambles now over this whole immigration mess, right? I think that they actually wanted it this way. They just didn't think it would be so overt, that we would be questioning things so much as we are as a nation. I think they thought that we didn't care, you and I, about the border situation as much as we do. And now Biden has come out and he says, oh, no, we are going to enforce Title 42. Remember, Title 42 is established by President Trump to mitigate the spread of the COVID variant and the COVID virus itself. And was saying okay, you guys are going to stay in Mexico until we can process you, securely. That means we have to know who you are. You have to put in an application to be, to come into the United States of America. It's just not willy-nilly. And we need to protect our borders from, these diseases, these viruses. And we have to check. But that wasn't enforced. I'm telling you right here and now, you saw every single night on Sean Hannity. You heard me here at the Sara Carter Show. You could go to my website, saracarter.com, see all the stories. I was in Guatemala. I was talking to folks in Guatemala about this. We were there when thousands of people are moving this way. Oscar Blue, who's a friend of mine, is putting stuff on Twitter all the time. He's coming with the migrants. He's walking with them. He's posting things left and right. Look him up. I'll put his handle actually on a story on my website if you get a chance, go there, saracarter.com, so you guys can follow him to see what actually is going on. And there are people coming to this country from every part of the world because the Biden administration wanted it that way. Do not be fooled. And Fauci is a liar. And the only reason that they are pushing for all of these things, there's reasons. It's not just because they want to, guys. I mean, it's not just, we want to protect the Americans from this virus. That's not it. They don't even know enough about this virus. In fact, even the South African doctor that discovered this virus believes that this virus is not as potent, deadly, as the original. That, viruses mutate usually to keep their hosts alive. They don't want to kill the host. The virus wants to exist. So we can't be scared. We have to look at the science here. And so he was saying, like, look, just calm down. We found a new variant, but it doesn't mean it's going to be more deadly. And so we have to use common sense. But then you have to ask yourself, why is this administration so desperate to control the populace? I think 2022 elections, I think that we have a socialist leftist bureaucracy now that is out of control, that believes that they know what's better for you, and they want to ensure that this government has more power than the American people, which means just trampling the Constitution. There's no other answer for this, right? I don't know. If you have an answer for this, give it to me. But I think those are some significant answers. Look, this is crazy, right? You all have heard that Chris Cuomo has been indefinitely suspended, right, by CNN for assisting his brother, Andrew Cuomo. God, he's so disgusting. And I'm going to have to agree with, with Janice Dean, remember Fox News, who stood up to Andrew Cuomo when nobody else would. Janice Dean did. She stood up for the rights of all of those elderly folks that died in nursing homes because Andrew Cuomo, despite the fact of having the Javits Center, despite the fact of having a naval ship off the port in New York, put a bunch of recovering folks with COVID inside nursing homes and just killed people. That's my opinion. Or he just didn't even care, didn't even think about it. I don't even know. But now Chris Cuomo is suspended by CNN for closely assisting his brother in damage control efforts due to his sexual harassment allegations that all came out. You want to know why these came out? They didn't come out by Republicans. Actually, the Democrats knew that Andrew Cuomo was just a mess as a governor, especially after what happened to all the elderly, and they couldn't explain that away. So they just found people that were willing to report on him. And I'm glad they did. I mean, they eat their own. That's what they do. That's what these Democrats do. They eat their own. Just let them eat their own. And now, Chris Cuomo, he's part of the, the disaster. And he's been eaten now too. CNN's getting rid of him. But listen to this. But Brian Stelter. I am so sorry. He hates when I call him that. Brian Stelter. He's a jerk. He and I have had exchanges on Twitter, but he thinks it's very possible Cuomo is going to be back on the air in a few weeks. I'm going to tell you guys, look at Andrew Cuomo and Chris Cuomo. These are two spoiled, rotten brats. They have gotten away with everything they've gotten away with in their life because they have been told that they are amazing, that they are the best. They think they can do whatever they want. And now they've been called out. They've been exposed. But you know what? It would not surprise me the least. And by the way, the only thing that does surprise me is that the left and all of you feminists, maybe two of them who are listening to the show right now, but all of you out there know what I'm talking about, aren't like screaming mad about this, aren't holding Andrew Cuomo and Chris Cuomo's feet to the fire on all these accusations. You were so easy to accuse Kavanaugh without any evidence whatsoever and everybody else. But, here's these two spoiled, rotten brats. And I want you to listen to this clip because it kills me. Brian Stelter thinks it's very possible Cuomo will be back on the air in a few weeks with him at CNN. Listen.
I think the bottom line is that Cuomo is on the bench for now. We're heading into a holiday season. I think it's possible he will be on the bench for several weeks. It's possible he'll be back in January. But I think what's going to happen now here at CNN is a more thorough review of the New York Attorney General's document dump in order to find out more about what happened.
You guys, I don't know what to think about that. I'm just disgusted. This is the same work. Well, you know what? It's evident in their ratings that the American people are not buying this crap anymore. It's evident. I mean, some nights they only have like 800,000 people watching. I want you to think about that. That's like nothing. CNN literally has to pay airports to play CNN. Like literally, that's why they're there. It's no other reason that they're just paying. I don't even know what CNN is, but maybe a ginormous failed organization that's still trying to stay on its feet. I have no idea even why they still exist the way they do. It would be awesome if CNN was similar to the way it was in the past where, you know, it was reporting. I remember watching CNN when it first came out. Am I dating myself or maybe not? I mean, I was young, but I remember the Iraq War, you know, and Wolf Blitzer on the front lines and Christiana Amanpour. And God, what happened to her? You know, but it's like, this is craziness. This is really, really crazy. So Chris Cuomo, basically, he gave a statement and talked about his suspension on CNN. He said, it hurts even to say it. It's embarrassing, but I understand it. And I understand why some people feel the way they do about what I did. Should I do it with like a New York accent? I've apologized in the past and I mean it. It's the last thing I ever want to do was compromise any of my colleagues and do anything but help. I know they have a process that they think is important. Yeah, it's called news, Chris. You don't use the news to cover for your brother. You don't use the news. And by the way, that's CNN's fault. He says literally, I respect the process, so I'm not going to talk about this any more than that. Yeah, you're not going to talk about this any more than that, Chris, because your ass is literally on the line. All your money, everything else, it's literally on the line. You guys are a joke. You went after President Trump. You defamed him. You lied about him. You did whatever you wanted. You guys think you're beyond punishment. That you could just do whatever, whenever, and that you're smarter than the rest of us. I have to read you guys this really quick because this is so funny. I was actually looking up stories about Chris Cuomo, and do you remember the story about the bicyclist that was confronted by Chris Cuomo? He was a Long Island resident, and Chris Cuomo called him a jackass, loser, fat tire biker. That's how Chris Cuomo treats people. He's not a nice guy. He's not going to sit there and be nice to you. This is the kind of guy that has done whatever he wanted his whole life and still thinks that he can get away with it. And this East Hampton man who was only identified at the New York Post by his first name, David, he said, sometimes Chris Cuomo is scary, stupid. Scary, stupid. He said, this is exactly what Chris Cuomo said about him on his Sirius radio show, by the way, which he still has. I don't want some jackass loser, fat tire biker being able to pull over and get in my space and talk bullshit to me. I don't want to hear it. He raged. Remember, it was Chris Cuomo who left his house with COVID, guys. These people do not care. They don't care about anybody else. They want to tell you how to live your life 24/7, but they do not give a rat's butt about you or me or anyone else. What would happen to you or most media figures, me, if we were caught doing what Cuomo did? What would happen? This is so crazy. I mean, I don't even know how to express it. It's the reason why. It's the reason why I have Senator Marsha Blackburn on the show today, because she's standing up. She calls people out. She doesn't hide. She doesn't allow lobbyists to play games with her. She calls people out as she calls them and as she sees it. You know, and that's what we need to start doing. We need to start standing up to these bullies, because that's all Chris Cuomo is. Andrew Cuomo, Chris Cuomo, all these folks on the left, these leftist socialists, are nothing more than bullies that want to cancel culture everybody but themselves. I'm not going to let them cancel me. Are you going to let them cancel you? I'm not. Before I move on, I want to just really touch really quickly on this, because something I'm going to be investigating, and I want you to understand that there are groups out there, there are nonprofits out there that are actually moving migrants into the U.S. Yes, they are. Go to saracarter.com. My story is Texas representative uncovers secret operation by nonprofits moving migrants across the United States. It is that important. Lance Gooden from Texas announced that he's uncovered the secret operation being run by nonprofits from a whistleblower from San Diego contacted him with the details. Once Gooden was approached by the whistleblower, he flew to San Diego and discovered that abandoned hotels in the California city were being utilized as shelters for the migrants. Some of the locations he mentioned included SeaWorld, the Four Points by Sheraton, and the Ramada Inn. I want to tell you this. I have seen this in Tijuana. I've seen this all across the border. You guys, people aren't being brought into the United States because of the goodness of other people's hearts. The people that are moving these people and making this humanitarian crisis so much worse are not just the human traffickers and the drug organizations, but actual nonprofits that are lining their pockets with the money that the United States government is dishing out to pay for the crisis that they created. And I'm going to leave you with this question. Why do you think they're allowing that to happen? Why? Do you think that money is being laundered through some of these nonprofits back into the pockets of people here in the U.S.? I certainly think so. And I'm certainly on their tail. They will not be able to get away with this for much longer. But this is what is happening. There's a lot of issues at stake here. People's lives are at stake. Our lives are at stake. Our national security is at stake. And we need to pay attention to what's going on. We need to wake up. And the sleeping giant has woken up, but we need to be more vocal about it. We need to stand up just like those leftists, but using the Constitution and our power to vote to do the right thing. Guys, Mike Lindell is one of those patriots that I love so much. He is a great guy who believes in the American way. He's the CEO and inventor of MyPillow, and he's been keeping a close eye on the recent supply chain issues. And he wants you to know that MyPillow is in stock with no back orders and no delayed shipping for all of their products. Why? Because MyPillow is made 100% right here in the United States, and they have built a huge inventory to ensure their customers have gifts for everyone. There are no supply chain issues, no delays, and no backlog. Christmas is not canceled with MyPillow. This holiday shopping season has full stock of all items on their website. Everything from the MyPillows at their lowest price ever to sheets, slippers, robes, and now cardigans. All in stock and ready to ship fast, guys. MyPillow is your one-stop shop for everyone on your list. Shop with confidence, knowing you'll receive gifts on time and with no issues. And remember, MyPillow sponsors the Sara Carter Show. I couldn't do it without them. Go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listener specials for specials like 40% off all my slippers and 50% off MyPillow mattress toppers. I mean, how can you beat that? Enter promo code Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R, or call 1-800-685-7221. That's 1-800-685-7221 for great MyPillow specials. Use promo code Carter at checkout. Save now, just in time for giving the ultimate gift and comfort with the best deals of the year on all MyPillow products. Without any further delay, I got Senator Marsha Blackburn from the great state of Tennessee on the line. First, I'd like to thank you, Senator, for being on the show today. We've got so much to talk about, but coming right out of the gate, I have to ask you, I think this is the most important question of the show today. I've heard reports that former President Trump is considering you for his running mate if he runs in 2024. Is that true?
I have not talked to President Trump about any of this. I will say this. I am one of those that thinks if he runs, he will win. The American people miss President Donald Trump. And, you know, I'm planning to run for re-election for the U.S. Senate in 2024. And I know the president has a record of picking really good people for his administration. And Sara, I think that that's one of the reasons that people miss him, because he had such great people at the State Department and National Security Council and Department of Commerce. And that's why our country did so well under his leadership.
Well, just look at what's happened under the Biden administration. I mean, this has been a nightmare from beginning to end. I kept thinking about it. And by the way, if you are his vice presidential running mate, wow, this would be so amazing, because I keep saying, and I'm just throwing this out there in case President Trump is listening, or anyone else that works closely with the president, that it would be amazing to have a female running mate, or to have him as the vice president and have you run for president, whatever you want. I'm just throwing it out there. I think Republican women, we're tough, we're strong. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be laughing about that one. He's going to be like, why did Sara say that? But it's true, because we really have been at the forefront now, I believe, of a lot of amazing changes in America. We've seen the mothers in Loudoun County. We see you standing up, being being a role model, having leadership out there in the country, not just for the constituents of Tennessee, but for Americans in general. We're going to be talking about China. We're going to be talking about, a lot of issues that have affected our country, from the border to everything else that affects everyone. You've really played that leadership role. Are you seeing that more and more often with Republican women?
I'm so committed to helping conservative women step forward, because we truly are happy warrior freedom fighters. And we do it because we are so intent on making certain that our children grow up in freedom and that they have the opportunity to live their version of the American dream. So I just am blessed every day to be able to do my part, to do what Ronald Reagan told us we each had to do, which is to fight to defend freedom so that we pass it on to future generations, because we do not pass it on in the bloodstream.
Wow. We are going to take this and make that a clip, because I think people really need to hear that, let that sink in. And I know you talked around whether or not he asked you. So I'm not going to push. I know you've spoken to him. I just know you have. And I'm just going to keep throwing out little prayers here and there, that we will have a brand new, amazing president in 2024. And you talked about fighting for freedom. One of the biggest issues that we've been dealing with, especially right now, we've been seeing it in the forefront of the news, is what has been happening in China. Not only with the Uyghurs, not only what has happened with COVID, but even I think it's a microcosm of how the Chinese Communist Party operates. But the Women's Tennis Association, it's basically suspended all of its tournaments in China and Hong Kong in light of the news that their tennis player, Peng Shuai, she spoke out. She spoke out against the former vice premier, called him out for sexual assault. That was on November 2nd, and no one's heard from her since. She's basically disappeared. Can you talk a little bit about how you are handling that?
Right, and I was early on this story. All of the women's groups with the Me Too movement were right there front and center on issues such as this. But Peng Shuai speaks up, they disappear her, and she stayed disappeared until they brought her back out to a children's tennis tournament and then showed pictures of her having dinner with friends. Now, we've not seen anything of her other than that one appearance after you had the WTA and some of us in the Senate began to question her whereabouts and her safety. Now, I put up a way to go atta girl tweet for the WTA after they suspended all play in China in 2022 because of the treatment of Peng Shuai. And they need to come forward and say, this is, we're going to allow her to exit the country. We're going to allow her to exercise her freedom. But that is not what they're doing. And Sara, this is also why I've said our athletes ought not to be going to the Winter Olympics in Beijing. And I know there are two schools of thought on that. There are some people that say, no, they need to go and they need to kick everybody in the patooey and win it all and bring back all the gold and show them the difference in the USA. But I think when you go to Beijing and you participate, what you do is to elevate Xi Jinping on the world stage, and you allow China to showcase itself. So if you're going to go, the U.S. Olympic Committee needs to be calling China out at every single stop. But I'm very concerned about what will happen to our athletes while they are there.
Exactly.
And about their health, their safety. The Chinese Communist Party is ready to roll out the digital yuan. They plan to do that during the Olympics. They're going to preload the digital yuan on the athletes' phones, and they have special wearables, gloves, glasses, things of that nature that you can use. The signal will capture it with the touch of one of the gloves, and then you are charged with whatever. It is, a seamless type process. Now, of course, the Chinese Communist Party is trying to push the digital yuan globally because they want people to peg to the yuan, not peg to the US dollar with their economies. I think this is very dangerous, and I don't want to participate in elevating any project of the Chinese Communist Party.
I absolutely agree with you, Senator. And I think for so long we've been asleep at the wheel. I keep telling people this. We are so blessed and are so, I think for the most part, Americans are grateful that we live in a country with freedom, but we're very isolated in many cases away from the rest of the world and what's going on out there. While we've been kind of asleep at the wheel here, the Chinese have been infiltrating Central America, South America, Africa. They've been, controlling the waterways, also devaluing money and playing with our money on the global market. And now with this digital yuan, we are seeing how China's power could literally undercut America, and not just the economics, but our freedom, which is the reason why so many people have fought them, tried to fight the Chinese Communist Party from purchasing more land in the United States or buying our ports or establishing 5G like Huawei in our country in areas where they'd be able to spy on us easily. So what do you think is going to happen here? Do you think we're going to end up in China anyways for the Winter Olympics, that the rest of the senators and everybody else who, are always imagining that the Chinese are like us and are going to play ball, or that the Chinese need us, are just going to let this happen and you're going to be out there on the sidelines fighting them?
Well, and one of the things we need to realize is China is not our friend. They're not they're not a frenemy. They're not a competitor. They are our adversary, and they are intent on global domination by the time we get to the midpoint of this century. Now, that's their game, and that's the outcome that they want. They want to be the lone superpower, and the only country standing in their way is the United States of America. Now, the way China is trying to get to global domination is through their economic initiative, which is called Belt and Road, their diplomatic initiative that they call debt diplomacy, great power competition, which is their military initiative. And what we have to realize is there is no daylight between their economic and their military policy. They run all of these things one and the same. Now, when you look at debt diplomacy, you can look at countries like Sri Lanka. There is a port at Sri Lanka, and the Chinese communists wanted access to that port. So they go in and they make loans to Sri Lanka. They give technology to Sri Lanka, and they say, we would like to have a 99-year lease on this port because you owe us so much money and you can't pay the money back.
That's exactly what they've done in Central America as well, and what they're doing in Africa.
In Africa, in Djibouti, you have the same situation. They allow Djibouti to borrow this money. They give Djibouti all this technology, and then they say, we want access to your port. And then they put a deep water naval base in that port. And this is the way the communist Chinese work. And that is their aggression and their propaganda, and they also have soft propaganda. And this is through programs like Confucius Institutes that they will put in place and fund at universities, or shared.
Explain that, because a lot of our listeners and our viewers don't really understand this. But the Confucius Institute is global. I mean, we have seen their placement in Central America, South America, here, all across the globe. Explain how they do this, because I think this is very important.
Yes, and Confucius Institutes are housed at universities, and they come under the guise of being a center for cultural exchange and language arts education. So you have them come in, they give the university a couple $1 million, they establish this institute, they send visiting professors over, which, as we are beginning to find out by much of the good work the FBI has done, many of these are spies. They're Chinese spies.
Incredible.
So that is how they're getting into many of our research institutions.
Why are we letting them? Why are we letting this happen? Everybody keeps asking me this.
Well, and thankfully, colleges are beginning to close these down. That's a very good thing, because when I started working on this issue, we had nearly 100 of these Confucius Institutes. I think we're down to about 50 now. And we had a few hundred Confucius classrooms in K through 12 schools. And that number is a diminishing number also. Now, they
K through 12. I'm just like, I'm astonished. I'm like, it's like blowing my mind right now when I think about this, K through 12. And I do have a friend I will not mention, but became very immersed in this whole Confucius Institute thing with her child, and had I couldn't believe it. I was like, what are you doing? Even though her child could speak Mandarin, they live in the United States, they're not Chinese. I thought that was good, her kids learning Mandarin. But when she told me they were sending her child to summer camp in China, I was like, well, wait a minute. Summer camp in China? What is that? Are you are you getting your kid indoctrinated? Because that's the only thing I could think of is happening there. They're raising young spies.
And what you also have is through the Sister City program, the Chinese Communist Party began to participate in the Sister City program so that they were getting immersed into local governments. And they had sister cities between American cities, Chinese cities. Now, there are some countries that have completely blocked the Chinese from their sister city participation. And I think that's a good thing, because people have figured out if you participate with the Chinese, you have to agree with the teachings of Mao. You have to agree with the policies of Xi Jinping. And there are a lot of people that say, hey, wait a minute, you're conducting genocide against the Uyghurs. Companies that go there to work are made to abide by Chinese protocols, Chinese law. The way the Chinese approach their beliefs. And a lot of people have backed away from those. There again, that's a good thing. The more people know, the more they distrust the communist Chinese.
What do you think about the Uyghur situation? I mean, look, I have been working on this now for months. One of the gals that works with my foundation actually spoke to some doctors that were investigating this out of Canada. Basically, they had been one of the first in the forefront to say that they're using Uyghurs to harvest, or do organ harvesting, that these poor Uyghur people have been sterilized. The women have been sterilized. They've been put into camps. They've been raped. And nobody in the world except for very few like you and others, have spoken out against this atrocity, human atrocity, this genocide that is happening in China.
And it is, to me, just heartbreaking when you see some of the drone footage, and when you hear what is happening to the Uyghurs, and to know that they are using social media to embed in China, the messaging app is embedded so that the Chinese Communist Party can spy on and follow the Uyghurs. That's what is happening to them. And when you talk to people that are Uyghur, that have escaped from China, the stories that you hear are absolutely horrifying. And what gets me is the fact that you have companies like Apple, the NBA, and others that continue to do business there. They're not pulling out and leaving like companies like Yahoo are doing and saying, we're not going to abide by these Chinese rules, regulations, and laws and pay umbrage to the Chinese Communist Party. And you have...
But yet these are the same companies, Senator, sorry for interrupting you, but these are the same companies that basically want to tell us how to live our lives, that are constantly vested in us, that have put down President Trump, that have allowed for all of this insanity on the internet, allowed the Chinese to basically propagandize. These are those same companies, but they're okay, and they don't even mention what's going on with the Uyghurs, let alone the people of China, who can't even speak up for themselves.
Right, and the social media giants that will allow the Chinese Communist Party on Twitter, but they will not allow President Trump to be on Twitter.
And it's insanity. Let me ask you
this is why we keep working on these social media platforms, because you have to allow the American people free speech, and you would think that you would honor that globally. But why disadvantage the Uyghurs? Why allow spying on them? Why censor conservatives? And why disallow the President of the United States, but allow the Ayatollah from Iran? I mean, it makes
sounds like perfect. It sounds like Iran and China are running our internet, are running our social media campaigns. That's what it sounds like to me. Sounds like these guys are just puppets for the communists, because let's talk big tech. Jack Dorsey just resigned from Twitter, right? So now we have this new guy in his place who believes that religion is a pyramid scheme. So this guy seems even worse. He seems like Jack Dorsey on steroids.
Yeah, how could a company go from bad to worse in choosing their corporate leadership? And that appears to be what Twitter has done. And then you look at companies like TikTok, who are very aggressively trying to get into the marketplace. They are owned by ByteDance. ByteDance is partially owned by the Chinese Communist Party. So this is what we see infiltrating our daily lives. And it makes it harder for parents to get their children away from these platforms. And then it brings more to the forefront to cause you to question, what are they doing with this data? And of course we know TikTok, a Chinese company, would like to build a database. These kids that are getting on these videos, people that are on these videos, they are pulling your pictures, they're pulling your data, your information. They are building a virtual you, which is you and your presence online. And if they've got your data, they own the virtual you.
That's just incredible to me to think about this, because I don't think in the scheme of things, parents really understand the dangers that are facing their children on the web. I won't let my kids have TikTok. My younger, okay, granted, I had an older daughter who wanted a TikTok account, and now she's not using it anymore. She eliminated that account. But I don't think parents really understand. They think, oh, this is over exaggerated. They're not really building this virtual you on there. And I'm like, no, they really are. They are collecting data and information that they can access at any point in time, like dossiers on us. Dossiers on them, and they look for people with high security clearances or children of parents who have who work in the government or have high security clearances, or who work at the universities, or who are in labs working on classified material. I mean, that's what the Chinese are mining for, anything and everything, and we're giving it away. We're just giving our information away. We've built, and I know the Chinese have, Huawei towers that are not in use in Montana. I've spoken to Brendan Carr about this. They are like massive towers for 5G. They happen to be right around our nuclear plants.
Of course they are. Yes. And
this
it's
is like
the Chinese now own the Waldorf Astoria in New York. Well, hello, what do we think they're doing with that?
Right.
So I think it's just so important for people to be very observant and to watch all of their digital devices, check in on their children and their digital devices. There are so many predators that are online. There are adversaries that are building digital profiles of children, and we have to say parents need to beware.
And I want to go right there before I let you go today, because I know you're so busy. You've given me so much of your time, Senator, and I thank you so much because I know your time is precious. But you're also demanding answers from Merrick Garland and the FBI about targeting parents as domestic terrorists. You know, Garland says that it's not happening, but you've actually found the evidence contradicting, you know, the Attorney General. First of all, what did you find, and what are you hearing from parents?
Well, what I'm hearing from parents is they cannot believe that the National School Board Association would have put forward a letter which would have tagged parents who are concerned about their children, their safety in school, the exposure to materials in the library, what they're being taught in the classroom, their safety at after-school activities and extracurricular events. So these parents have been showing up at school board meetings. You know, one of the good things from COVID is people were watching what was happening at that school. And they also were watching what populated the child's screen and were curious, was the school system being compensated for selling data on children? So parents have started to attend these school board meetings. And I think they have been shocked that school board members who are elected by the people to serve didn't want to give them their answers, or would give them 1 minute to speak and then would shut them down and would shut off communication. So being called a domestic terrorist in that letter was really inappropriate, upsetting, and an unethical move. Now, the school board
beyond inappropriate, in my opinion, because these are armed agents of the United States government. I always want everybody to understand this. This was pointed out to me by a former CIA retired 35 years CIA case officer who said to me, Sara, these are armed agents of the United States government that we entrust with our safety. And now, you know, Merrick Garland is calling parents domestic terrorists. It's unbelievable.
Well, Garland did not call them that. The school board letter called them that. They sent it to the White House. 4 days later, Merrick Garland sends out this letter.
Correct.
And
you're right.
Gives the information to all the regional offices of looking for this violence and the rhetoric. But he never used that term. The school board used that term. Then the school board retracted that letter after the president of the National School Board Association. But the damage was done. Garland had his letter out. Now, here is a great example of how quickly they got that turned around in 4 days. Now, you and I talked back in the summer, and I told you about how in August I had gotten 44 of my Senate colleagues to join me on a letter to Merrick Garland asking for a status update on the Durham report. We sent that over. We still do not have a written response.
What?
Now, we sent it over, and a little bit, 10 days later, we get the Sussman indictment. Mm-hmm. Garland comes to committee. I mention it to him again. We're still waiting. And then we get the Danchenko indictment. But Sara, this was in August, second week of August. And we are still waiting in December. And 4 months later.
What do you think's going on? What is going on with this?
Well, what we know is that you have those that are, as they term themselves, many of them, socialist Democrats or progressives, and they are running the government. What they are seeking to do is to build distrust in our institutions, basically take them down, and then rebuild it in that socialist, democratic, European style government. That's what they would like to do. But every day I'm out there fighting. I stand on the Constitution and the rule of law. I am grateful every day that parents are waking up, showing up at school board meetings, that citizens are showing up at their county commission meetings. They are calling on their elected representatives. They are saying, vote down Joe Biden's Build Back Broke agenda. They are standing up and speaking out against this so-called infrastructure bill that's only 20% about infrastructure. The rest of it is mass transit, Green New Deal, things of that nature. And they are questioning this out-of-control spending. They are calling on us to secure the southern border, support our troops, have a policy of foreign affairs that says America first. And I am so glad that they are, because our country is worth fighting for and preserving.
Thank you so much, Senator. I don't think I could have ended it any better than what you just said. It is worth fighting for. It is worth preserving. And I just want all of the listeners out there to understand, listen to what Senator Blackburn is saying. The power is in our hands. We have the ability to vote people in, to vote them out, to stand up and speak. These socialist leftists have no power over us if we don't give it to them, right?
And we've got to take it back.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Well, I hope you come back on again soon. I know everyone loves having you on. I always get a lot of listeners when you're on. And I think it's important. And by the way, that first question I asked you, I'll be asking you again.
You got it. Take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you. Guys, there's a chill in the air. Can you feel it? Don't be caught with cold feet this holiday season. Keep yourself warm this winter with heat holders. Heat holders makes the warmest thermal socks around. They keep your feet warmer than just ordinary socks in the coldest conditions. Trust me, I was in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and I used them. How do they do it? Heat holders uses a 3-stage process with a cashmere-like advanced insulating yarn that's soft to the touch and brushed on the inside and traps warm air closer to your skin, keeping your feet warmer, comfortable, and dry. And what Heat Holders says it makes is the softest and most comfortable socks guaranteed. Heat Holders will pamper your feet. Heat Holders also makes hats, gloves, throws, scarves, and much more. Give someone you love Heat Holders for the holidays. Go to heatholders.com and enter the code, listen to this, Sara. SARA, and you'll save 15% off your order. Receive free shipping with any purchase of $25 or more. Give the gift of warmth, guys. The perfect stocking stuffer and gifts for everyone. Remember to go to heatholders.com and use the code Sara, SARA. That's heatholders.com. Heat Holders, making life warmer. Okay, so we have a story to talk about here. And this is at saracarter.com. And I mean, it's about China. So we're going right back to where Senator Marsha Blackburn and I were, but we're moving it even further. We're moving the ball down the field. This is something that I've got to talk to her about the next time I bring her back on. Maybe I'll bring in Gordon Chang to talk about this because it's actually quite frightening. Experts are saying that the United States is vulnerable to an electromagnetic attack by the Chinese. I know some of you out there are saying, like, what? What is electromagnetic attack? It will literally shut down our grid. An electromagnetic attack is literally one of the most dangerous things that could possibly happen in this country. I mean, if you go on to the Heritage Foundation's website and read, there's a big report on it. And they actually did a study where they looked at what would America be like a year after an electromagnetic attack. And it's terrifying. So many of us would die. I mean, if everything just shut down, imagine that. Imagine if our hospitals, just all of a sudden, there's no electricity. There's no way to run. Nothing runs off the grid. It immediately fries everything. We would be going back to like the caveman days here. This is pretty scary. I'm going to read it. If you want to see the whole story, go to saracarter.com, but let me read a little bit to you. When Joe Biden was trying to convince Americans to vote for him to become the next president back in 2019, he belittled the concept that China is a danger to the U.S. Come on, man. China's not a threat. Remember that? Come on, man, said Biden. Experts, however, continue to show just how wrong Biden was. And by the way, he's always been. Fox News reported that experts are warning that the United States is vulnerable to an EMP electromagnetic pulse attack from adversaries such as China, and that time is running out to invest in defending the nation from it. We really got to pay attention to this stuff, folks. China is not going to rely on us. China wants to be the leader in the world. It wants to lead the world. You heard what Senator Blackburn said. China is not a frenemy. It is a full-on adversary. And it wants nothing more than to be the leader in this whole new world. It's a whole new geopolitical structure for China. And it's been very much a part of their politics and the Chinese Communist Party's culture of changing things slowly but surely. That's why we cannot be asleep anymore. We cannot be asleep at the wheel. We have to awaken. We have to awaken. America is a sleeping giant. And I believe that we are waking up to this. But everything from education and, crazy critical race theory teachings in our schools to what is happening right here in our nation with China and our adversaries that are not just overseas, folks. Remember, these are people that have been indoctrinated or in our own bureaucracy. Don't ignore what you are hearing. Ask your lawmakers, call them up, find out what they're doing about all of this. Find out if they're doing their job. And if they're not doing their job, vote them out. I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. We are in charge. They are not in charge. That is the message that I always push. On the Sara Carter Show, on this podcast, on my website. We are in charge. They are not in charge. Just remember that and feel good about that. That's why we have a constitution. Now let's protect it with all of our might. Thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. Thank you for all that you do. God bless you. God bless the great state of Texas. And God bless the United States of America. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Weber, the CEO of the Association for Mature American Citizens. It's also known as AMAC. Can you share a little bit with the audience about your father, Dan Weber, and how he founded AMAC and why?
My father formed AMAC after he recognized that the AARP really was not representing his values, and those values were really faith, family, and freedom. And my father believed in America's greatness. He believed that there was what he described as a cultural shift occurring in our country. He thought that the very, very foundation, the Constitution, was being disregarded. And we saw that the power of government was growing and individual freedoms were diminishing, were being threatened. And to get more specific was in 2006 when he said to me that he was canceling his AARP membership. And I said to my father, why would you do that? And he said, well, they've just named Harry Belafonte Man of the Year. And he went on to say that Harry Belafonte had commented to Hugo Chavez saying that George W. Bush was the greatest terrorist threat in America. And my father said something is wrong with that. So he saw the AARP make this sharp left turn. And that was when he said, let's form AMAC. And I said, let's do it.
Rebecca, thanks so much for being with me today. I'm honored to have you and AMAC as a sponsor for the Sara Carter Show. For more information, folks, visit amac.us/Carter.